Welcome to the Tom Brokaw News Center here at Universal City. I'm Conan Nolan. Thanks for joining us. In a moment, the two candidates in that very hotly contested race in the 25th Congressional District. That's northern LA County and part of Ventura County. Republicans trying to hold on to that seat. But first, two major political heavyweights from presidential politics of the past. We have Bob Shrum, who ran the campaigns of Al Gore and John Kerry, and Mike Murphy, who ran the campaign for John McCain when he first ran for president, as well as the super PAC for Jeb Bush. In 2016, he also helped Arnold Schwarzenegger become governor of California. They are the co-directors of the USC Center for the Political Future. Both of you, thanks for coming. So, Bob, let's start with you. After the debate on Thursday, all of a sudden we hear that Donald Trump says he's raked in tens of millions of dollars, and now they're financing a campaign to go after Minnesota. Now, this is a state, of course, that went for Hillary Clinton in 2016. They believe they can flip it. What does that tell you about the race, and what does it tell you about the psychology coming out of the Trump campaign?
It's a desperation move. There's nothing in the polling that shows that Minnesota is competitive. Minnesota hasn't been carried by a Republican in a very long time. There may be a few mayors of smaller towns or Democratic officials out in the hinterland who say they're for Donald Trump. That's no indication of where the state is going to go. It's the kind of desperate thing you do when you're in a campaign and you don't know where to go. You throw spaghetti up against the wall.
Mike, you've run a lot of campaigns, down ballot campaigns. For Republicans, say in Orange County and in the district up in the 25th district, that's Mike Garcia and Christy Smith. We're going to have them on later. How important was it for them to have a normal debate on Thursday and to normalize the presidential campaign going forward, at least for the final week and a half?
Oh, I think it was helpful. I mean, in California, what's going to make or break them is the quality of their own campaign. Mike Garcia is a very strong candidate. If he's relying in California on Trump tailwinds, that's a bad strategy. He's going to have to run ahead of Trump, but he's in a competitive area of a non-competitive state. What Garcia didn't need, or any of the California Republicans down in Orange County or anywhere else, was another crazy Trump performance that would have just abetted a collapse. Trump improved a little, and that would help them some.
Bob, what are your thoughts about whether or not, obviously, I think it's without a question, Democrats are going to hold the House. But now we're talking about, I have Ben Shapiro on his radio show the other day. I was listening, and he said, you know what, he's defending Donald Trump, but he says, if you want to give money to the Senate candidates. He was de facto giving up on the president, saying you got to hold the Senate.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty powerful concession that it looks to Ben Shapiro, as it does to me and to a lot of other people, as if Joe Biden is going to win this race. Look, Nate Silver gives a 12% chance to Donald Trump. Now, 12% small, but it's not nothing. I mean, he could still win the election, but I'd be very surprised if he did. Republicans are going to try to hold the Senate, but Trump is a big undertow in a lot of these states. And senators, these incumbent senators, are in a tremendous dilemma. They would like privately, if they could, many of them, to separate themselves from Trump, as Ben Sasse has done, and he's safe for re-election. But they're afraid that if they do that, then the Trump base won't vote for them. So they're in an incredible dilemma. They are tied to Trump in a way that some of the congressional candidates Mike was talking about may not be.
Mike, you've talked about this on your absolutely fabulous podcast, Hacks on Tap. I'll give you a plug there. So for all the Democrats who are in a fetal position over this election, they've seen the polls before. They saw what happened in 2016. This is a very different race. Certainly, he's the incumbent, and the polling has improved in the targeted states. They weren't that good in 2016. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you do. I mean, this is something consultants laugh about a lot. My beloved Republicans under Donald Trump have become the stupid party, but the Democrats are always the neurotic party. So they just won't believe it till they see it. They think Trump had some Rasputin mind control trick last time. So Nate Silver said that Hillary would win and didn't turn out that way. But right now, I would much rather be Joe Biden today than I would have been Hillary Clinton then. The Trump has kind of worn out his welcome. There's no novelty, and Biden's a stronger candidate with more advantages. Plus, the demography of the country has shifted in the Democratic direction. So it is possible Trump could win. But right now, Biden is in a strong position.
Still, though, we see registration numbers, upticks in the Republican registration in some of the battleground states. That's got to be a sign of encouragement for the Trump campaign.
Well, they're
Go ahead,
holding
Bob.
on to every little sign of encouragement they can find. I think what you're seeing, by the way, with independent registration, which is also going up, a lot of those are young people who are independent-leaning Democrats. So I don't think that registration numbers tell us an awful lot about what's going to happen in this election.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. The chairwoman of the Republican Party released some numbers showing Republican versus Democratic new registration with a Republican advantage, but she ignored the independent column. And the way this thing works is Trump gets 85% of the Republicans and 35 to 40% of the independents. So you got to kind of count all three stacks, and the Democrats are going to win both of them, one huge and one by maybe 20, 25 points.
And finally, let me ask you about a local election. It has national ramifications. The district attorney of Los Angeles County running for re-election. There have been protests outside her home for a year. There have been protests outside her office. Adam Schiff pulled his endorsement. You had the mayor of Los Angeles pull his endorsement. But some would suggest that a couple of months ago, during all the protests and the reimagined police and defunding police, that things have settled down to a point. And now we see evidence of homicide spiking in LA. Does Jackie Lacey or anybody who's viewed as pro-police, is it too early to write their political obituaries? Mike, we'll start with you.
Look, my bias, I voted for. I thought she was the stronger choice, but she's definitely in the fight of her life because there is some anger, understandable anger out there in the electorate that might reflexively be punishing law and order candidates. But if you look at her record, it is both fairly progressive and very pro-victim and anti-crime. So I don't want to write her off exactly, but this is a tough campaign, no doubt about it for her.
Bob?
Without saying who I voted for, I've already voted. The fact that she's lost the endorsement of Newsom, she's lost the endorsement of Garcetti, she's lost a number of endorsements, Adam Schiff, you mentioned, indicates that there's this dissatisfaction out there because she really hasn't gone after police abuse. And one thing I think is going to be true post-election in lots of jurisdictions around the country is you're going to have district attorneys who are going to hold police to a higher standard. And if Biden wins, we're going to get a police reform bill on the national level, I think. He's not in favor of defunding the police. In fact, he'd like to create more police, but he wants to create standards for how police have to behave.
I'm getting the feeling that Bob might have canceled out my vote.
I didn't say that.
I'm getting it. Well, I heard a few tells there.
I didn't. So listen, Mike Murphy, Bob Shrum from the Center for the Political Future at the University of Southern California. Thank you very much. It's always fun, and have a great election day. Although you both voted, so hey, you're part of the 50 million or 70 or 80 million, whatever it is.
Okay, thanks, Conan.